Hey, thanks for joining me. I was out and about today. It's a Saturday, and don't have my kids and had nothing else interesting to do. So I wanted to just run out and go do some stuff. And I went and hit up some art supply stores and hit up, there's this called the Nerd Store at a local mall. And just checking out all the stuff that's there, and grabbed a couple of comics, grabbed a stupid magnet that had the Autobot Transformer symbol sign. It's a magnet. It's on my fridge now. And just walking around, not looking for anything, just looking to see what's there. I ran across this full 11 by 17 size page. Like, for example, like this is an 11 by 17 piece of artwork that I've done. So you could see the full size. The American comic books are drawn on papers this size. And this is a book printed at full art size. So I saw that from the distance, and I saw that it was black and white. And as I got closer, I saw Greg Capullo. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be great. I'm all about getting to see artist work in the raw pencil form. I'm like, this is so exciting. I'm super into this thing. I picked it up, $14. Does it say it on the back? Yeah, $14.99. So way cheaper than I thought it would be. I thought it was gonna be like 30 or $40 or some bullshit like that. But $15. Now it's a single issue. Now I was like, it's pretty thick. So I'm like, I wonder what's going on in here. But to get the chance to see Greg Capullo original pencils is what I was expecting, which is what I get, but there's more to it. But again, it's a really big surface, to compare to the size of a comic book. There it is. So I've had to back my camera up to get it in frame, because I usually had the camera brought up close so you could just see the comic here. But to get to see this thing in its grandeur, I got to back it up. So I'm actually recording this in 4K resolution. I hope that it works, because I want the detail to come through. But so I flipped it open, and then when I first flipped it open, I saw that it was black and white. I'm like, oh, is it just the inks inside? Which I'm all for. I talk often how I love black and white artwork. I want to see just the raw black and white inks and all kinds of stuff. So I'm not complaining. Jonathan Glapion is an incredible inker. He's fantastic. But I kind of wanted to see Greg Capullo's pencils. But what did they do? Well, first off, flip this open. I mean, this is my little art paper towel taped to the corner of my desk. Let me get that out of the way. Spread it open. Big close-up on some of the art. I haven't actually read any of this stuff yet, but I mean, look at that great kind of focus on the art right there. I have no idea what any of that is. Don't care. But flipping it open, and I was like, oh shit. It prints the pencil page and then the inks right next to it. And I was like, this is almost perfection of something I would have always wanted my entire life. Young artist me, teenage me, would have died to have something like this, to see how the penciled artwork looks and what the inks look like and how it's translated over. And not just teenage me, but young adult me and old cantankerous old fart me right now, getting to see what Capullo did and how Jonathan Glapion inks it and how he translates it. The only thing I wish they didn't do is put the text on it. Yes, if you want to read the story, that's kind of important, I guess. But I'm like, we don't buy these to read the fucking story. We get the comic fully colored and everything to read the story. This is all about art. So for me, personally, would just leave the lettering out. Although you want to give credit to the letterer, like not trying to take that away. But this is a display of art. So again, I've got this on 4K resolution and my phone's only at 40% power, and I think it sucks up the power. So if there's some kind of cut edit in this as I go along, I'm not going to try and dwell on this forever, but it's probably draining my battery. And you think I could plug some power into it, but I have a microphone plugged into it that takes up the port for the power. So we're kind of taking a little experiment here. But this is like almost perfection. The only thing that would make it better is if I love Greg Capullo's art, but I'm not a huge DC guy. And as much as I love his art, like there's some other artists I would pick first to have penciled pages and inks. God, if I had to like choose, give me Mark Silvestri pencils and Joe Weems inks in a book like this, and I've got the most perfect artifact that is I will treasure forever. Now, this is, if that's a 10, this is like a 9.5 for me personally, just because of kind of how I scale my favorite artists. But Capullo is brilliant. He knows how to do everything. He's stunningly fantastic. And you see, like, he was great 3 decades ago or whatever when he was drawing X-Force. And, you know, I didn't care for him on Spawn, but that's not because of his art. It's because Spawn sucks. But I wouldn't collect Spawn because he drew it. I'm just not interested in those characters or anything. I just don't care. But this stuff, I may not read DC, but I like Wonder Woman. I like Superman. I like Batman. And to see anything drawn by this guy, and to get this opportunity to see all of this stuff side by side, I never imagined, like, this makes perfect sense. Post the pencils, I'm like, this is a internet forum or something like that. Print the pencils and print the inks. Put them side by side and let those of us who are art nerds just geek out over it. Like, looking at the face, and you can see very clearly how Jonathan Glapion has to, like, look at what Capullo's put down and translate it into solid black lines. Like, duh, of course, that's how this stuff always worked. That's like, I'm stating the obvious. But Capullo's interesting where he has very clean, very clear pencils, but they're not like hyper precious. I would cite an example of, look at some of the very detailed pencils you can find of, like, for example, David Finch. There's a lot of his Batman work out there, and he, like, takes it to a finished level farther than this. And I'm not saying that as a good or a bad, it's just a choice that he makes. But he would even, like, basically indicate the line weights in the feathering lines in the pencils. Capullo doesn't do that. He'll throw in, like, kind of a couple of rough, sketchy lines. Like, he gets his pencil, and then, you know, he'll get in there and he'll just kind of like squiggle a couple of lines across the bridge of that nose. They're kind of rough. You get the idea, but Glapion has to, like, show us what that is going to be and give it a texture and a form and follow what Capullo's put down. That's why at an inker, you have to be able to draw. You cannot be, I've said this before, and anyone who's interested in comic art knows all this. This is nothing new. But you can't be a comic book inker and not know how to draw. If you can't draw, or you're rudimentary at best, you're not going to be a great inker, honestly, because you have to understand what all of this means. You're taking what Capullo puts down and putting into a final form, and you have to know how to throw these lines and understand the form and the function and all of that. And this is a perfect example of how to do it. I remember seeing Capullo. I saw him respond to somebody, and honestly, it might have been me. I think I left the question, but it's been a couple of years, so it might have been someone else. I'm just misremembering. But I think I said, do you intentionally leave your pencils kind of rough? I mean, everything's there. You know, everything that you need to know is there. And he says, yeah, if I made my pencils hyper tight, what would be the point of inking them? He wants to tell us everything that we need to know, but leave some room for the inker to translate and add something to it. Like, he said that specifically, and I respect the hell out of him for that. Like, he's not being hyper precious with his lines. Like, it's all there. You better not fuck up what he does. Don't change anything. Don't suddenly add a light source that he didn't put, but you get to play. And for an inker who knows what they're doing and enjoys it, that's like the greatest gift, right? It's so neat to see this stuff. There's a lot of interesting things that I was noticing as I was flipping through this stuff, because, again, Capullo gives you everything you need. Like, look at this great tech on this gun shooting. And then I'm looking at the hair. Like, the hair, it's really rough, but you get it. Like, he puts kind of like little jagged indentations, you know, out here on the outside edge, just kind of show that there's some layers and textures to it. He just kind of scribbles in some quick, like, there's some highlights across the top edge of his hair here. And then, you know, Capullo puts in these lines, like, traveling through it, but he also scribbles in the black, show, like, this is black hair. So then Glapion has to, like, put those lines in there, whether he inks around it or comes back in with like some kind of white media to draw those in there, to add those highlights. But you have to define that highlight. It's not very well defined over here. Like, you know what it is and it reads, but when you transfer it from rough pencils to finished inks, you better be confident in what you're doing. Because a bad inker can fuck up great pencils. I find stuff like this fascinating where Capullo, like, there's no need for him to like take and black in these dark spots, because you see these two panels are the same, but how heavy black is it in this panel versus it's very open in this? He just has to kind of pencil in the basic figures, and then he just kind of decides what elements he's going to leave highlighted: the top of his cowl, the ears, some little these ribbing things on the side of his mask, and then it's just kind of silhouette. And he puts those little X's, which, you know, anybody in the comic art field understands, but some people don't understand. Little X's mean black that area in. So it's just interesting to see, like, this is what the final form is, but that's what it's looking like to start. And I could see, like, myself, like, if I wasn't completely confident, I would feel like I would need to blacken that in pencil so I can see it fully realized myself as an artist. But when you're this good, I've seen Mike Mignola do the same thing. He'll just have all kinds of detail and put X's everywhere and not blacken it in with pencil. And again, that's the confidence of a penciler who understands, like, I know what this is going to look like, so just follow my lead. I'm telling you where to put the shadows. Just ink it in, black it out, and it'll work. It's just the skill set of a penciler who's been doing it for, what has he been doing it for, 4 decades at this point? This shot, again, I'm not reading these stories. Is this Batman? Like, look at all these, like, whatever, these tendril things wrapping around him. I do have to say, though, that as much as I love the inking, there's some kind of visceral, raw energy about the pencils that just win it for me visually every time, and I don't know why. There's something, I'm looking at the pencils, I'm just like, oh, I want to spend more time looking at the pencils than I do the inks, which is weird. Maybe it's just because, again, I'm a guy who draws his own stuff, and I'm a billion miles away from being anywhere a fraction as good as this. But as a penciler, I understand, like, okay, I get what he's doing and what he's drawing, and like just the simple muscular anatomy in the silhouette of that arm up there. There's some subtle little shapes, like there's this bicep, and then kind of like there's a little curve and indentation and a curve of the muscles in the forearm that, you know, is translated over here. It's so great. This up shot, this up angle on the guy's face there, the eyes, the nose, and the open mouth. Tricky stuff to do. This whatever this weapon is, the ball, and is it a mace or whatever it is? I don't know. The ball with the spikes on it, like there's a highlight of brightness on this edge that's kind of inked in there with some texture, and then another highlight on the opposite side. And then there's this little pointy spike right here. You just got a little highlight on the edge over here and over there to show you that that little spike is on there. And you know, it's penciled in there, but you better know what you're doing to translate that. And it looks great. I will be staring at these pages, not these two specifically, but this entire thing forever. Another great shot. Like, this is like, I look at this and I know it's, I mean, I was going to say I look at this and I think McFarlane. A giant page with a big side shot of a head and then some panels showing some stuff going on. I'm not saying that McFarlane originated that by any means, but whenever I look and see something like that as a kid growing up, I first noticed it on repeat when McFarlane would do it. He kind of had a style that he would do this and it would pop up often. So to me, it's the McFarlane side headshot with panels showing stuff. But again, you're getting to see these very basic, like, pencil lines, like this kind of rendering of texture over here. It's just looks like he takes his pencil and it's flat. He's kind of just rubbing it across there, and then he kind of gets some indications of some distinct lines. And then Glapion's got to, like, translate that. I'm gonna guess brushwork in that. This looks like all brushwork up here. And I would love to know, I'm reasonably certain that most inkers throw in these lines, when you take your brush, you start at the thin point, you go thin to thick. So you're going to start at the thin point and brush it into it and throw that. So because you could start out really thin And then as you throw the line, you push a little bit harder onto the brush and it lays down a thicker, fatter line. And so I'm just kind of guessing that that's what he's doing up here. It looks like brushwork to me, and then some white cut into it that way, across that way. And then same thing down here. I'm just kind of guessing it's brushwork being thrown down here. It looks so great. And then the stubble on the upper lip of Batman there. I mean, there's just the most basic indications of it. Very basic. You understand that there's some stubble on the upper lip of Batman. It's darker and heavier towards the back and gets lighter as we come out towards the front. And then he translates that perfectly. Like, I love this. I love seeing these raw ink lines. It's not quite, I was going to say not quite an artist edition because it looks like there's some cleanup gone on the inked pages, but I don't know that. It doesn't look like a raw scan where like the yellowing of the page and smudged pencil. And I mean, there's maybe some potential like dropped ink dots down here, but it's pretty close to an artist edition. It's about as close as you could ever hope to get. And again, I love the pencil and the inks together, getting to see how all this stuff comes together. Again, how much it's just open. Like there's no black on the penciled page, but there's a lot over here. And he puts BWS. And that doesn't mean Barry Windsor Smith. That means either black with stars or background with stars. I'm guessing black with stars. Either way, you get the point. It's black with stars. It's a night sky. So then, and then again, it's supposed to be stars. And Capullo is not telling anybody where to put the stars. So Glapion has to put those stars in there. And I'm going to guess he probably takes some kind of something to flick white paint on. Like you can take an old toothbrush, for example, which you can see I've got a shitty old one that I've used here. Let's see. I don't clean these things because I just look at that, puffy and gross. But you just get paint on that. I've actually got a couple of them. I've got several over here that I use for different things. But you just flick that shit. You just dip it in there and flick it and just fires it out on there. Or you could use, I've seen people take like a brush and like an old credit card and flick it with that. Anyway, every different way of flicking stuff creates a different pattern. And but again, I like that Capullo, he's like, just put stars back there. I don't care, Glapion, do whatever. And it doesn't take much. You just flicking some white on there. But if you fuck it up, you could do something wrong. So there's kind of like that syncing up of artist, penciler, and inker, where there's trust established. These guys have drawn tons of stuff together for years and years. So I'm sure at this point, it's kind of like a Jim Lee, Scott Williams thing. They're not concerned about what each other is doing. They trust each other. Off they go. Double page spread. So no inks here. So we're going to get the flip side of it. Great. Absolutely beautiful. I'm guessing photo referenced mountain range. God, I feel like I don't need to bring up a certain artist that I talk about all the time who could not be bothered, if you put a gun to his head, to just open up his phone and look at a fucking mountain range when he has to draw a landscape. But to also include all these beautiful buildings. And then the destruction of some buildings down here that are crushed. Again, I don't know what the story is. I don't care. And then a great shot of the heroes, all in like varying angles. Like, I just got done reviewing. Where did I put it? Son of a bitch. It's right here somewhere. Maybe the universe is telling me I don't need to bring this up and talk about it. There we go. Now, the scenario is different. But like this team of heroes, the Justice League, they're standing amidst the rubble, taking in the devastation. So Batman up close, he's kind of turned looking at Wonder Woman. Superman's back here. I don't know if he's using, like, there's an indication of some kind of like something with his eyes. Is he looking far ranging? Is he eye beaming something? Who knows? But you get that there's something going on. Aquaman down here. Amidst the rubble, they're kind of sitting on different planes. You got Green Lantern floating in the air up there. Like, there's so much life to this. And then you could have another artist draw a scene of characters and they'd just be standing there like this. Now, these are very different scenarios requiring different things. I get it. But I promise you, I swear upon my children's lives, that if this was a book drawn by Liefeld and it says, draw a giant epic shot of this mountain range and the smashed city. If this was his spread, this giant panel would be a little tiny thing in the top corner and be just a little triangular peak. That's it. And then This shot would be the entirety of the rest of the page, and they would just be standing there shoulder to shoulder, just like this. No life, no interesting like body language and positioning, interaction between the characters as they talk and they look. This shot of the Flash taking off running, it's incredible. That anatomy on the body, the face, the arm coming forward. It's a little hard to see probably because it's light pencil, but when we flip it, you'll get to see the inked page. But the dynamic energy in that, it's so great. So we got this double page spread. What does the finished inked version look like? Absolutely perfect. Look at that great mountain range, all these characters, all the detail in the rubble is all figured out. There's that amazing great shot of the Flash running. All these speed lines as he runs around. What a pain in the butt that would be to ink, because you have to draw these lightning bolts coming off Flash, but then you have to also ink in these speed lines of varying line weights. Heavier here, lighter there, in between the lightning bolts. I wonder if he draws the long brush strokes and then inks in the lightning bolts and then whites out over the thrown lines. Who knows? It could be either way. Beautiful spread. It looks fantastic. So good. Back to the equal, single page pencils and inks. Love that shot of Cyborg and the lighting on his face up there. Love the tech in the background. I like how Capullo seems, I feel like his version of Batman kind of has a distinctive look where the cowl, the mask, and the cape, it's always just a flat black. I don't know if that happens all the time, but every time I see a Batman that's drawn by Capullo, I feel like he always draws it that way, and I love it because it's a distinctive stamp of like artistic style. This is how I draw Batman. And something about it stands out. Like most artists put some kind of highlight on it or a sheen or something like that. I don't feel like everyone draws it just as a flat black shape the way that he does. Or if they do, I don't know. I haven't noticed it. My phone just indicated that we're on low power mode, so we're going to see if we can get through this pretty quick. This great island, again, Capullo looks like he's taking his pencil and probably laying it down and just kind of putting some smudgy lines in there to get this texture. And then the inked version, I'm going to bring it up and again, hope that it comes through clear. It looks like it's either like a dry brush dabbing a brush or some kind of something just to tap the ink on there to get that texture. Like it's not drawn on with a pen. There's some kind of splatter or dry brush texture, something. Looks so cool. Love that. Great face on the girl there on both shots. Love that hand, the finger. I don't know what it's holding. Don't care. Great backgrounds. Capullo can do it all. There's nothing the man can't do. Like, he probably commands a huge page rate, salary, but he's like one of the best out there. Love this shot of these characters and all this stuff behind him, all the background detail. This stuff all looks so great. I'm going to try and speed through it a little bit quicker because, again, my phone's close to dying. I should have charged it before I started recording. But I was excited to get into it. Love this dark, heavily shadowed shot of the man's face. And again, it's all there. You see where all the lines and shadows are, but it's rough enough that inker gets to throw some kind of characterization into it. He gets to choose what the line weights look like and kind of has a say in the end of everything. And respect, man. Love the screamy face there. Again, there's an indication of like white lines in the eye that Glapion throws in there, like this angry energy coming out of the eyes there. So cool. Very detailed pages with this swirling wind. I guess, what is it? The tornado. Gosh. Love this shot of Batman. The organic stuff, plants, trees, bushes, leaves, dinosaur thing. Dinosaurs with feathers, I'm never going to be okay with that. Dinosaurs are giant lizards. I don't care which way is scientifically accurate. This one is interesting because it's very dark and very specific on these shapes. But over here, it's almost hard to see. Like this would have been a challenge to do. I love this little single shot of the guy's head down here. This makes me want to sit down and draw. I want to sit down and draw comics which I will be doing a little bit later. Another shot, again, Batman, just straight black, with just a barely little light indication of highlights across his shoulders. Great backgrounds. Great Alfred, of course, great lizard creature thing. Oh, yeah, I was like, yeah, there's just this black shape of Batman standing there with this cape, and it's just kind of lightly penciled in there. Love this shot, this establishing shot, this beautiful chair, and all this ornate background. Simple one-point perspective, but it looks so lived in and real. And, like, there's all the ornate decorations and bookshelves. Look at this great book in the bottom corner. Fantastic. I love this stuff. And again, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know. Or is it, well, it says Dreams of the Endless. Is this the Sandman? I don't fucking know. I don't read these books. Great shot. Look at this. Oh my God. This is kind of the first time I'm really focusing on this page. When I flipped through this originally, I just kind of went through everything real quick, but I didn't stop at this last page. Holy shit. Simple black silhouette shape with just the indication of the eyes and a great mouth, and then some kind of penciling, feathering lines. But look how Glapion interpreted that. But more than that, the folds in the outfit here, the great lighting on the face and the hair. But look at that smoky background stuff. Like, Capullo very obviously put a little bit more time and effort into the way that it looks like he wants that smoke rendered. There's some textures and specific round shapes and a little glowing highlight there. Like, he's like, I want this to look special. And Glapion, like, rose to the occasion. I wish those words weren't there so we could see the inking in its entirety. But hell, there's even some what looks like fingerprints in there. Holy shit, can you see that? I know this happens. I've seen artists do it. But, like, it looks like where you take your finger and you get ink on it and then you touch it. And there's fingerprints in it. I just noticed that just now, to go along with these interesting textures and line weights and little highlights and everything. What a great page. Love that Batman shot. So great. That is just badass. And then I'm guessing the cover. Yeah. Again, just drawing the figures and then put X's. It's just all black everywhere. What else is back in this thing? Oh, yeah. Kind of an unfinished, not on the back. Like, I want to ink this. I'm going to have to, like, scan it and print it out and practice inking and fuck it up completely. But it looks so fun. Looks great. And then some character sketches, like a zombie Robin, whatever that version of Batman is. I can't remember. I've seen it, but I don't read these books, so I don't know. All these weird, interesting versions look like a weird, like, alternate version of Batman Beyond here. That is really cool. God damn, these are cool. Greg Capullo is awesome. The man is a genius. And inker Jonathan Glapion, fantastic. I was so glad that I found this. I want more just like this. I think they call it, it's, where did I see? Oh, yeah. Work in progress. What others are out there? God, it seems like DC is really throwing their A game out there, you know, with the Absolute line and things like this. And I don't know what Marvel's doing anything that even compares, you know. Marvel's choking. And I would give anything to see like this from any of my favorite artists. Adam Hughes, Mark Silvestri, Travis Charest, J. Scott Campbell, Joe Madureira. You just name it, where we get to see full-size pencils and inks right next to each other. You know, it's not quite an artist edition, but it's pretty fucking close. Love it. I need to just look this up and see if there's more. This is great. I hope that you guys, I have a lot of friends who watch my channel here that are artists, and, this is for you guys. This is for me. This is for you. The artist kind of element of it. Love this stuff so much. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you can kind of hear the excitement in my voice. I love this stuff. You know, I'm not all negativity. I swear to God. Anyway, that is all I've got for now. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see you next time.